Hey, welcome everybody. Everybody hear me all right? Great. Hey, listen, we're glad that you're here. You had a lot of options and sessions, I know. Glad that you picked this one. And I hope that, if we're successful, you're going to leave with a couple of key things today. First, we're going to talk to you about what it means to be self-sufficient in Domo, what that looks like. We're going to show you the new Domo Certification program in how you can become a Master MajorDomo, and we've got some folks here to talk to you about that. And the third thing that you were going to get today is top resources, some of the things that you can start accessing today to help you and your people become more self-sufficient in Domo. But first, let me quickly introduce a couple of key folks. So my name's Jared Cook. I'm Senior Director of Domo Education and our community efforts. Glad to be here today. And I have a couple of folks that have joined me today. Siley Pawar is here. She's from Cisco Systems, Analytics and Visualization Architect. And she's here to talk to us about how using a Domo certification program, she was able to on-ramp over 1,000 Domo users at Cisco. And then we have Jen White. Jen, IT manager at Mississippi Valley Regional Blood Center. And she's going to tell us about an incredible story on how she's used Domo CourseBuilder to help train her people on Domo and help them be more self-sufficient. So what does self-sufficiency look like? Well, if you're 35 and living in the basement, maybe not. A dictionary defines it as able to maintain oneself without outside aid, capable of providing for one's own needs. So what does it mean, though, to be self-sufficient in Domo? Think about the people that you service within your own organizations. When somebody is self-sufficient in Domo, they've got two things that are firmly in place. First, they know what to measure. Now this means they understand the business goals, the key objectives. They know what is going to help drive the needle for the business. The second thing that needs to be in place, they need to know how to get it. Right? This means that they have the Domo know-how, familiar with the tool, familiar with how to manipulate the data, build cards, and all the great stuff that you get in Domo. But it also means that they have the data know-how. They know what sources to pull from, what columns to access. And these things need to be in place in order for somebody to be truly self-sufficient in Domo. So in case your people maybe aren't yet convinced as to, that they want to be self-sufficient, remember that happiness belongs to the self-sufficient. So let's play a quick game. I'm going to have you pull out your phones here in a minute, and you're going to do an anonymous self-assessment in terms of where you're at. So I want you to think about you specifically, and if you've got the quadrant number 1, in that quadrant we have low strategy, low skill. Hey, there's no shame if this is where you're at, but basically this means maybe you don't yet know what's important to the business. Perhaps you're new to the company. Maybe you're new to Domo, and so the skills aren't quite there yet. But we'll talk to you here in a minute about how you can improve on both of these axes. Quadrant 2, high strategy, low skill. So maybe you know what's important in the business, but in terms of how do you get it, where the data is, still trying to come up to speed on that. Quadrant 3 is the reverse of that. You've got high skill, low strategy, right? So you know how to pull the data. Maybe you're a data ninja. You can bring that data from anywhere, manipulate it. But in terms of what is really important versus what's a distraction, still something that you're trying to come up to speed on. And then this fourth quadrant is where you're truly self-sufficient. So with that, everybody knows what quadrant they're in? Okay, I'm going to flip over. We're going to do a real-time live poll. So I'm going to just flip over to here. All right. And I need to share this. Okay. All right. So if you got the number up here, So quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4, if you'll text that number up on your screen, and as you text those in, we'll see where everybody lands, and then we'll talk about what to do. So I'll give you just a minute to pull out your phones and text in your response there. Okay, looks like it's starting to settle. We'll give you just a few more seconds to finish that up. It's interesting to see how that's shaking out. So we've got quite a few here in quadrant 2. A pretty good split between 3 and 4. Quite a few folks that are very self-sufficient in Domo. That's awesome. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but glad to have you here. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to lock it in there. So let's then talk about where do you go from here? So if you're in that bottom quadrant, and now I want you to think not only about where you currently fit, but expand the lens a little bit. Think about your team. If you were to rate where your team fits in these quadrants, or your department, or even your entire company, think about what is it that you can do to help drive better skill, better strategy. If you find yourself in that quadrant 1, most important thing is focus on the foundation. Foundational technology skills in terms of understanding the business. Maybe it's a conversation with manager to understand what is it that your department is focused on and driving those key measures. If you're in quadrant 2, focusing on the tech skills, and I'm going to show you here in just a moment where you can access some great resources in order to shore up any of these. If you're up in quadrant 3, focusing on the business strategy. And if you're in quadrant 4, a few of you are there, I recommend at this point, it's a time to get certified. It's a time to solidify those skills and gain that credibility that we'll tell you more about here in just a second. So let me roll a video about certification.
In today's business world, actionable data is increasingly essential to make informed decisions. And Domo helps empower people throughout your organization with the right data at the right time. But to be successful takes more than just access to data. Your teams also need the right training, whether they are responsible for preparing the data or whether they use the data to run the business. Domo is excited to announce 5 new product certifications for business professionals and data professionals. Business professionals will learn the basics of using Domo, how to interpret and analyze data, how to build cards and dashboards, and how to make data-informed decisions. Data professionals will learn the intricacies of connecting, cleansing, transforming, and preparing data. They will also learn best practices for data visualization and data storytelling. Take your training and your career to the next level by becoming a Certified Master MajorDomo. Access to training content is complimentary for Domo customers, from basic foundational training to advanced training. Domo certifications will be available starting in summer of 2019. Head over to domo.com/certify to register now.
Right, so we are excited about this. This is something that's been in the works for some time. 5 new product certifications that will be available this summer. As you saw in the video, 2 tracks, business and data. So whether you're interested more on the data track or you've got folks back at the office that are wanting to get certified on the business side, we'll teach you the key skills that you're going to need to be successful in Domo. All the access to this training is complimentary for Domo customers. We want to make sure that you are empowered and that your people are empowered to access that training. And then you can learn more by going out to domo.com/certify. We'll have some time here at the end to talk about questions I'm sure that you have about certification. So with that, I'd like to invite up Siley Pawar from Cisco to tell us about their certification program and how they were able to on-ramp over 1,000 users at Cisco. Siley?
Thanks, Jerry. So coming to Cisco's story with Domo, it has been wonderful 2 years so far, and really happy to share our challenges, processes, and lessons learned today. So, some lessons we did learn instinctively, and some lessons we learned the hard way. Instinctively, we knew that we couldn't give out access to 1,000+ users at one single time. Also, not everybody was qualified to bring in data sets in Domo and to start off building cards. Also, we had a pretty huge data set, over 1 billion rows. So we couldn't put our data in jeopardy. We had to make sure that we were always consistent, accurate, and accountable for the data set we are showing to our end users. So we started rolling out actually pretty slowly. We started off giving out access to the ideators first, which was just the core team, then to the early adopters, then to the prototypers, then we had a soft launch, and then we had a grand opening. So we had to make sure that there was something for everyone when they were given access to Domo. And just setting this foundation was so critical, especially for the editors, because they were the ones building out the content for all our stakeholders. So we rolled out this user certification program. So we looked at our users and we actually segmented them into 4 unique personas. So there were participants that were just consuming data with view-only access. Then there were basic editors who were able to build and share cards with their teams. There were pro editors who were able to build and share cards with anyone within their team and outside their teams as well. And lastly, there were data preppers who were wholly and solely responsible to bring in new data sets in Domo. So to actually facilitate these people, their functions in Domo, we had custom privileges built out for them. So a basic editor was able to explore and build cards on their overview pages. And since these cards were not certified as single source of truth, they were able to share their cards only with their teams just to get good feedback from them so that they could continue to explore, learn, and grow. Whereas a pro editor was able to build sub-pages. So we had many pro editors who started building off their playgrounds as sub-pages, and they used to house their cards on their playgrounds, and they used to share these pages with their teams. So, and since these cards were certified as single source of truth, we were able to move these cards anywhere within Domo in any of the other pages or spaces as well. And the last one was a data prepper. So this was the person actually who had technical knowledge when it comes to data ingestion. So this person was able to use the APIs which we have in Domo, connectors, using connectors like Smartsheets or Box, using MySQL, Redshift, let it be R or Python. So just leveraging the connectors and APIs and bringing in new data sets for their own teams. When there's someone wanting to become an editor, someone starts with being as a participant. So they have to go through these training modules which we have for them. They have to take a short quiz which they have to pass 100%. And then that's when they are given contingent access for a week. So in this 1 week, they have to complete their certification by building out a card and getting it reviewed by one of our core team members. And once they complete the certification, that's when we badge them, we certify them as a basic editor, and they get to keep their editor access. If not, we revoke their access, and they're back to being as a participant. So once they're badged, they are free to explore and build and share cards on their overview pages. Whereas a pro editor, only a basic editor is eligible to become a pro editor. And also this person needs to get an approval from their governance leads. So we had this step added later in the process of getting acceptance from their governance leads, because we were informed that there were quite a few certified and non-certified editors wanting to become pro editors, and we had kind of gamified it, so everybody wanted to become a pro editor. So we wanted to restrict the number of pro editors because these were the guys who were actually building certified content for the public. And we were like super skeptic and taking all the measures just to make sure that people keep trusting the data in Domo. So they needed to get an approval from their governance leads. They had to QA any 3 cards that were publicly available to them. We also had a QA/QC checklist, which they could refer to. So this was like a snapshot of the QA/QC checklist, which we have, where when they're queuing any card, they can go through these checklists. So there's the card description, summary number, if there's any beast mode, is it documented? So it's pretty cool because it just made their job easier to QA any cards that are publicly available to them. Let me go back to the previous slide, actually. So once they QC any 3 cards, again, these comments are reviewed by one of our team members, and that's when we certify them as a pro editor. And that's when their access is changed to a pro editor, where they can start creating subpages and start off building cards and sharing it with anyone across the organization. And lastly, a data prepper is someone who has been a basic editor, who has been a pro editor, and is now ready to bring in new data sets in Domo. Again, this person needs an approval from governance leads because we don't want like too many people from the same team bringing in Excel sheets. So this person actually goes through rigorous training. These are 8-hour-long sessions where we cover topics such as data governance, data ingestion, data security, user security. And again, they have to take a quiz, and that's when they are badged as a data prepper in Domo, and they get like additional privileges with it. So one of the main intentions of having these certifications rolled out was to really leverage editors' roles and finding the right level of foundation required for each of these editors, because they were the ones actually driving their teams towards Domo adoption and Cisco's data-driven culture. So it was really critical for us to give them what they needed and to train them starting from the foundation to becoming a data prepper. And we are still learning, and quite a few lessons learned that I'd like to share with you all today here. So using data to decide your next move. So we have these frequent audits which we conduct. We audit our data sets, we audit users. So in one of such audits, we were again informed that there was like a substantial increase in the number of Excel sheets in Domo. So we tracked these down, we looked at who were the owners, and the owners were actually certified and non-certified editors. There were Excel sheets that had 0 rows, no cards built on it. So we reached out to the Domo team, and we shared our concern. We were like, we need to do something about it. And that's when we thought of introducing this new role of a data prepper in the organization, and then we tweaked some privileges for basic editors and the pro editors, so they were no longer able to bring in new data sets, and only the data prepper was able to bring in new data sets in Domo. Also, governance and training is essential. We highly stress on this part because it's extremely important to have this environment where people can keep trusting the data and they feel safe to work in. So we don't want to stop anyone's creativity in any manner, but just having this sanitary environment where they can keep learning and keep growing when it comes to being self-sufficient and making their team self-sufficient. Also feedback. So we used to have these weekly calls with participants and editors where we used to ask them, what is that you need from us? Or what is that you need from the Domo team? What is that you need us to start, stop, and continue? And we used to get really good feedback. So one of this user in one of the calls was like, he recommended us to write a book of 500 pages saying Domo for Dummies. And we thought it was pretty cool. It was just not feasible, but we were always open to having these healthy conversations with our end users. And there was one more user who needed more of the technical trainings for beast modes. So we were always open to feedback and always ready to test and pivot when it comes to experimentation. So the feedback calls greatly helped us, just to reevaluate our users' needs whenever we are transitioning from one phase to the next phase in this journey. And whenever there's like any change in any organization, you would always expect resistance. There are people who are skeptic, people who are biased of the entire operation when there's some new idea, and that is just, I mean, from the get-go, things start getting crazy sometimes. But we would always fall back to our fundamentals of creating an environment where people feel supportive of the change, where they're always given direction. And in this case, it was the digital transformation that our organization was going through. And I must say that the Domo team has helped us tremendously, just building this internal muscle and capability of making people self-sufficient, making teams grow on their own. Even today, the communities which we set up 2 years back, initially it was just the core team who was monitoring these communities, but now people are self-sufficient. So users' questions are answered by other users. So, that's a victory we feel. And still we are scaling every day. So yeah, I think, and we're still learning. So I think these were quite a few lessons that we learned, and I hope they were quite helpful to you guys. So welcome to any questions later, but yeah, I'd like to call on Jen now so that she could share her story with Mississippi Valley Regional Blood Center. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Saili. I already told her I'm taking back her information to my organization. So I'm Jen White. I'm the manager of IT at Mississippi Valley Regional Blood Center. We're not located in Mississippi, though. I am headquartered in eastern Iowa, and we're an independent, not-for-profit blood center. So what does that mean? I supply the blood products to 94 hospitals throughout the Midwest. So we've been on Domo for about 2 years now, and our Domo journey really started the first year of just getting that data architecture in place, making sure that we had that single version of truth and qualifying our data. So living in the Midwest, I live in the state where the Field of Dreams is, and it's the if you build it, they will come. So we built it, but they weren't coming yet. So we needed to train them, and I had 50 card builders. We started right out of the gate with about 3 persons per department in the organization. These card builders were spread throughout the Midwest in 4 different states, and I have a very small but mighty IT team to support Domo. That small but mighty team is myself as the sole trainer for the IT department. So I had spent much time putting our data together, but needed to put together a training program. So on the weekend, I was sitting there with PowerPoint open, not my friend, and just starting my presentation to engage those persons that I was ready to train. PowerPoint is not my friend in the fact that I spend more time formatting presentation than what I do actually training and engaging with people. So I decided I was a little bored with what I was doing that weekend and thought, well, let's dive into your little geeky side and let's hop onto Domo and do some stuff. So I logged into Domo, and there was a release splash page telling me that this thing called CourseBuilder was out there. How many of you have used CourseBuilder or built? Okay, so several in the room, awesome. So I'm reading the release notes, the bullets on it, and I'm like, is this really going to be a good thing? Could this be the answer? And could I get part of my weekend back by using CourseBuilder? So I hopped right into it and immediately was in love with it. I could embed video, I could add quizzes to my application with like 3 clicks of a button. Whereas with PowerPoint, I probably wouldn't have slept and still wouldn't have been done by Monday morning. So the CourseBuilder allowed me to engage the persons throughout our organization. And what it did for me was to create and enforce those standard practices and some tool tips for persons throughout. So CourseBuilder has been dubbed for us the lifesaver amongst lifesavers at the organization, and our training department really utilizes the tool. But I built our first 2 CourseBuilder apps, and what did it do for me? It allowed me to build customized training in Domo quickly. So it's built right within my instance, very little pain points associated with it. I was able to leverage the existing Domo University content, so my videos right from Domo U are embedded within my CourseBuilder app. I created quizzes, and those quizzes weren't really for me to judge my training class and how well they were doing. It was to judge me as the teacher to say how well was I doing? Where was I on course with them? Had I maybe kept things too high level or technical for them and that we needed to take a deeper dive? Or had we gone off on a tangent and we completely missed a subject within the training course? So I really liked those interactive quizzes to help decide where I was at in doing my job. I can't be a trainer the majority of the year. I have a full-time job as an IT manager to run an IT department. So where was going to be my replacement once I left in classroom training? So the ability to have the CourseBuilder app right within my Domo instance allows me to share that with new users or persons that are coming into a licensed seat. So I literally share that, and they have the same exact experience that they did in the classroom, and I have that consistent training for all users. The other thing is I have the ability with Google Analytics to track who has completed the training. I work in a highly regulated environment, so trackability and traceability is important for us, so I could track who completed that training. The other thing that I could do with CourseBuilder, and Jared's going to bring up my participant training, is I could engage all different learning styles. Just before I started the Domo journey, I actually had led a major revolution in our own instance with our blood banking computer software system. We previously collected every single unit of blood on a paper process. So we literally killed thousands of trees each year doing this. But I took the entire organization paperless for our blood collection process. So I already knew some of the things that I needed to overcome in training with different learning styles, persons that weren't exposed to tech previously. So I needed to make it user-friendly. I needed to dismiss their fears. But again, I needed that consistent message to them. So this is my participant training. You can see right away I've got my blood center logo on it, so I was able to make it be custom to us. It wasn't that I was throwing Domo at them. I was giving them, this is the blood center, and we're supporting this. So this is an example of a card that I have push pins, and I have actually taken an image directly from one of the Domo training app pages and embedded it into this card, and those push pins are interactive. So I can either have with the push pin a further deep dive description into the piece that I'm showing, or I can embed a video in there and launch that video screen. So again, we talked about different learning styles. There's persons that just want to read, there's persons that want visuals, but then like for me, I want hands-on. I want to try and break something before I learn it. So this allowed me to have the class hands-on and tasks for each of us to complete as we went through. And then if we go forward a little bit, so this is a video that was embedded on that page just before. Here's another video on Buzz. But here's that quiz that I was able to add a quiz card. So again, I could engage with my audience, and I could determine where I was at within my training. Had I done my job correctly? So Jared just answered a question wrong here. So this allowed that talking point to come back and circle back to say, oh, let's go back to this content and review that. So again, I've got that shared within our Domo instance, but I can do the Domo embed everywhere or anywhere. And so I could share it with persons before they even have a license within our instance to log in. But CourseBuilder really was my answer on that weekend, and it is our lifesaver amongst lifesavers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And these apps you posted out into the Domo Dojo, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So I entered the Dojo contest, and I actually, thank you, had no intention of speaking today, but once I entered the contest, they're like, can we showcase your CourseBuilder? I said, yeah. So I think it's available probably for about 25-ish days, because I think I put a 30-day on it. So thank you.
So let me show you, I saw a few hands that have used CourseBuilder. I want to take just a couple of minutes, show you how easy it is to build an app like this that you can then take back to your organizations. So the first step, if you want to get started with CourseBuilder, is you're going to head into Domo, you're going to go to the App Store, and you're going to search for CourseBuilder. So these are applications that are downloaded either on Mac or Windows, and as you download that application, then it looks something like this. Okay. All right, so creating an app is super simple. I'm gonna pick one that I've started already, but we're gonna show you how easy it is to create. So let's say I wanna create a new page that's just an intro to Domo. Now, when you create a new page, you can pick from up to 15 different type of templates. In this case, I'm gonna select an introduction page and save that. And CourseBuilder is built in a way that as I create, you'll see it change right here on the right, so you get the real-time feedback. So if you're creating a training for your new users, we're going to say welcome to Domo. All right, I can put in a description here. I'll save you all the hassle from watching me try to type that accurately. There we go. So now I've created my first page. Now I can just drag these right into the order that I want. All right, so I'm going to put intro here at the top, and then let me go ahead and create a second page. This one I'm going to call Getting Started with Domo. And rather than trying to come up with my own content, I want to leverage some of the existing videos and content that Domo University has already created. So I'm going to use, in this case, a video, an introduction video template. Okay. And I have a few options here. Now, if I have my own video, I can just upload that file, and I'll show you where to do that here in just a second. But if I want to leverage one of the existing videos, Domo now has all of the Domo University videos available out on YouTube. That's over 350 how-to videos that you can leverage directly. Here's how you would do that. So I'm going to pop over here to our Domo YouTube channel. It's just Domo or youtube.com/Domo HQ. While you're there, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. It's a great way to get to know new product features right as they come out. I'm going to embed this Why Domo video as part of my training. If you click up here in the browser, the very top piece is the video ID from YouTube. I'm going to just copy that, come back over to CourseBuilder, and I'm going to paste this into my video ID. Okay, and you see that just immediately embedded that video straight into CourseBuilder. Now I'm going to drag this as my second page, and so on and so on. Again, 15 templates, creating pages, super easy, leveraging existing content from Domo University. We've tried to make that as easy as possible. Now let's say that you want to not only create the training, but you want to brand it. You want to make this look like your own. If you pop over here to videos, you can just upload your own logos, other files straight into CourseBuilder, and then customizing the application. Let's switch out the background here. I want to keep it an image. I could make this just a solid color, but I'm going to switch the background to something more conducive to new users. Great. And then instead of having this Domo University logo, I want to use my own corporate logo, so I'm going to grab this logo here. And now all of a sudden you can start to see how easy it is to brand and customize this. I can change the color palette to literally anything that you want. And then once that's customized, the final step is to deploy this into your Domo instance. You're going to do that by going under Preview and Export, and you're going to publish to Domo. Now, before you do this, Jen had mentioned the importance of tracking this. You want to know who in your instance has seen the video and who hasn't. So if you scroll down here, you're going to check this box to add Google Analytics Tracking ID. This will automatically, you'll put in your own corporate Google ID, tracking ID, and then using Domo's Google Analytics connector, bring that data right back into Domo to measure. Okay, so now I'm set. I know that was a whirlwind. We've got great tutorials that I'll show you where to access those if you want to go in deeper. But let me publish this out to Domo. I'm going to put this straight into my instance. It's going to just authenticate. Okay. Now, once you get this message, this is telling you that it's been deployed into your Domo instance. So now I'm going to jump back over here to Domo. where was I? Here. And I'm going to go to the asset library. So whenever you publish something from CourseBuilder, it's actually created as an app asset. And I can click on this, add it to a new card, new user training. I'm going to name this card, save it. And just like that, I've now created my own app inside of Domo. Pretty cool, right? If you want to move that into your own page, sharing it, you can do that just like any other card. Even go into full screen mode like this if you'd like to. Okay. So super easy way to get the right training to your people in a very efficient and easy way. Cool. With that, let me show you a couple other assets, a couple other resources that you may find valuable in addition to CourseBuilder. So we mentioned earlier on, depending on which quadrant you were in, where do you go to find foundational content? Where do you go if you're looking for to up-level your skills? There's a couple of resources that I want to make you aware of. The first is if you go to domo.com, we have a brand new help center that is now publicly available, meaning you no longer need to be logged into Domo in order to access Domo's help resources. So that's over 1,700 knowledge base articles, over 350 videos that you can now access, your people can access without being logged into Domo. In terms of new users getting started, this is where you want to go. You start training, okay? And we have a set of applications inside the Domo App Store. These are pre-built CourseBuilder training modules. So as an example, let's say you have the Domo Basics users. You don't want to start from scratch, so you want to use what Domo already has. You can head over to the App Store and download any one of these applications. Now, if you download it from the App Store, it's going to be what Domo's created. But let's say you want to take what Domo created and then build your own thing on top of that. Here on under the training page in the help resources, go under train your team, and you can download the CourseBuilder files for any of the Domo training apps. That means that you can take Domo's Domo Basic course, put your own branding, your own logos, you can put your own content on the front and the back, kind of mix that up so that it's specific for your people. Okay? So that's the first resource. We talked about YouTube. Videos are out there. Please take advantage of that. You know where to download CourseBuilder. And then the other thing we wanted to touch on, let me just go back into presentation mode here before we wrap up and take your questions. In terms of certification, you know where to go to, domo.com/certify. We will be announcing more details around the content that you can access here shortly. And lastly, I see Donnie out there in the audience, the Domo Dojo, an incredible resource. This is something where you can interact with other people here in the room, other customers, and leverage what their best practices as well. So to wrap up, key takeaways. First, find out where the gaps are. Maybe in your own knowledge in terms of skills and strategy, in terms of your teams. Determine what is the best way to close those gaps. Is that e-learning? Is that one-on-one coaching? Is that getting a room full of people together? What is going to be the best mechanism to train your people? And then lastly, hold them accountable. Don't just put training out and hope that it gets done. We put analytics in place so that you can help your people be successful. And so with that, we will take any questions. Yeah.
This is for, I don't remember, the young lady from Cisco.
Yeah, Siley and Jen, you guys want to come up? And here, we'll just come right down here in the front.
Can you speak briefly to just the idea of the extra manpower and resources that it took to manage a mechanism like what you described? We have a fairly small Domo shop, it's me and two other guys, and we can barely keep up with development requests, let alone think about building training and certifying. My biggest fear around pushing Domo development out to the various departments is the fact that I'm going to have to spend 50% of my time answering their questions, helping them learn. How did you kind of tackle that from the top down, getting the buy-in from management that this is going to require some dedicated resources to pull this off?
So what we did was we started with the core team, and because we needed more resources, as you mentioned, and like not everyone was available, so we literally like handpicked people from other teams. So people who we knew were like the driving force for their teams, and we also had like cardathons for them where we trained them, and so that because we knew that the teams will be reaching out to them and we cannot answer all the questions, so they were the first point of contact to answer these questions. So just like handpicking people who will be working on the data and who understand the data, I think you should like maybe you could start from there, and they could be your team,
And if I could add in, Jen, I think you mentioned that you've got more of a hub and spoke model where, small team, but you're able to build capacity in the organization. How did you do that?
Yeah, definitely. So my counterpart just walked in the room. So she and I manage our Domo instance on a day-to-day basis, but we have one employee that's my assistant. So we have in Buzz, we actually have a support channel in Buzz that they tag us on their cards for those discussions, but my assistant filters that information for us first. So he probably spends about 20 hours of his week supporting our Domo instance, answering those end users' questions, but he filters them for us, and if it is something that is beyond him that he's tried to answer or solve, then he trickles it up to us, and unfortunately they're usually the hard questions. So that means we're calling Domo and getting those answers, but we really, in training, we touched on Domo University, the knowledge base, the dojo, and said these are your first lines of contact. We don't want tagged in a channel because our first answer to you is, did you go look? Have you gone to the help center to help be that self-sufficient model from there? And the majority of their questions can be answered in it. Those I think that we're probably triaging at this time are more specific to our business. And we have some excellent SMEs within those departments. And even we're seeing that cross-departmental mix come into it, that I have persons in collections and recruitment supporting each other.
Thank you for that question. Other questions? Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Thank you.
Have you guys experienced building a training program for executive teams who are super busy and do not want to learn too much about it, but want to consume the data at their fingerprints?
Yeah, I can go. So yeah, even like we had people who had a deadline maybe to create cards, or they didn't have time to go through all these like training modules. So that's when like we used to have like one-on-one sessions with them. So maybe like just schedule like 30 minutes with them and just walk them through the process. And it does help them a lot because they can instantly just take the contingent editor access quiz and like start building of cards the same day maybe. So like just like talking to them like one-on-one does help them, I would say.
Yeah, and whenever we release a new data set to our population, we have a Zoom lab with our card builders, and so we engage them within that data set, walk them through it. Usually we did a rather large metric mapping when we started, so we take one of those key KPIs from that metric mapping and build some of the basic cards from them. So they already have a foundation to start with, and then they can do the deeper dives or make supporting cards to that as well.
Right, and just to add on to that, if we look across our customer base, I think one of the other things we find successful with the executive audience, it is the one-on-one coaching, very, very common, combined with alerts. If you can set up the right alerts for that particular executive, that will draw them back in and begin to change behaviors and have them go to Domo to find answers. Yeah, great question.
And one of the ways which we also recommend to our audience is just like the save as option. So we ask them to save as cards, and then just try to see how was the card built, what were the quick filters used. Try to just check out what the settings are. That's a good way just to speed up your learning. Yeah.
Great point. Other questions?
Hi, so this is actually a question for the Cisco team. I was wondering, with the way you have your basic editor and pro editor and then data prepper, are those corporate specifications within Cisco, or were you able to restrict with an editor security setting a basic editor from sharing cards like to only a certain set of people? Because I feel like in my instance right now I could be wrong, but I feel like in my instance an editor can share whatever they want, and maybe we need to put up some more PDP. But that's basically my question, because we've run into some hurdles with that particular topic.
So I would say it was all done on the Domo side. We had the Domo product development team working with us very closely, and we used to communicate our requirements to them, and they were the ones who actually helped us build these custom roles. With PDP, I think it was mainly with the data sets and not with the users. So even like when we train our editors, let it be like for basic pro or data preppers, we do train them for the PDP training as well, and just like which data is confidential, which like what are the attributes that make a data confidential. So, and they have their governance leads actually, and their managers who keep a check on these editors as well if they run into any issues.
Sorry, so just to clarify, so some people could physically could maybe share something that they shouldn't be able to, and then that would be trapped by a manager, not necessarily by the software? That's just what I'm trying to figure out. If you guys have custom security settings.
So when a data set is brought in,
Sure.
So a data set is brought in by a data prepper. So if there's any confidential information, that is PDP'd right there.
Okay.
And then that is shared with the end users, including the editors.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes more sense, thank you.
I think time for one more question, if there's one more. Okay, well, thank you all. Appreciate you being here. And have a great day.
Thanks, guys.